G'day and welcome to the GameDay Squad NRL Fantasy Show. I'm Dyl, that's Stu, and we are the Fantasy Bros. We're very excited to once again partner with GameDay Squad to bring you everything you need to know to succeed in GDS Rugby League this season. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. Teamless Tuesday has dropped. We obviously have plenty to discuss on tonight's show. It's time, I think, of the season where it really defines coaches' season and how they're going and the opportunity they have. Maybe some might even call it moving round. Look, half the competition is on a bye. We've got Origin players missing, not to mention all the injuries that are still happening as well, with the latest news being Herbie Farnworth has now been ruled out for the weekend, which throws a massive spanner into the works. We're going to have to dig pretty deep into our squads and find some out-of-the-box plays, I think, to dominate this round. And as always, Stu and I are here to do that for you. Stu, welcome, mate. Before we get into those positional previews, let's go around the grounds. It was an absolute cracker of a Magic round, with the Warriors obviously dominating both on and off the field. I was there on Saturday walking down Caxton Street, and it felt like absolute home walking down Queen Street in Auckland with all the Warriors fans around and probably every second person saying to me, up the wires. So it was great to see. Mate, how did you go with Magic round and your results?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the best fan bases in the competition, if not the best. Don't forget the Canberra Raiders got the 2 points on the weekend just gone as well. I've noticed you left them out of your little introduction there, mate. Round 11, not too bad. Fifth in both of the special comps, fifth in prime time, fifth in the Sunday Showdown, 12th in Challenger was my best normal competition result. Oliver Pascoe, there aren't many cards of his floating around. I searched him on the transfer market. There isn't a single Pascoe card for sale or trade on the transfer market. I've just got the one in my squad, so I thought, why not chuck him alongside Damien Cook there into the Sunday Showdown team, and it was his diamond. He was looking on absolute fire. Went off the field for about 12 minutes to get Lukey Summerton on the field. He could have scored 70-odd, 80 easily, but 67 from Pascoe, and his diamond card in my library is pretty handy moving forward.
Yep, yeah, definitely. It was crazy to think that, yeah, like you said, there's not many Pascoe cards around. There was some debate whether he was even in player pools earlier in the week, and a few coaches were sort of scrambling for him. And like you said, we just sort of opened our squads and we saw a diamond there in each of our squads. And probably when we pulled him all the way back, whenever we did, we probably thought there's a line through a diamond we're never going to use. But yeah, he's obviously come to fruition nice and early. For me, 7th in Challenger, 9th in Champion, 7th in the Sunday Showdown. I thought I was traveling quite well and only missed out by a few. Shout out to XRP. He went and got himself an even better opportunity. He won the comp again, but he already had the ticket, so it went to Penrith. I think only missed out by a couple of decimals, so it was great to see a couple of the boys working hard there. And look, my results all came down to Olakau'atu. We talked about him last week on the show as being probably the number one pick of the round, and he rewarded coaches with that nice 101 before the multipliers. So that was his base score there. So look, I had him across all of my squads, so I was pretty happy to see his result in the high hundreds in the Challenger and Champion team. So yeah, good on him and good on Manly that keep on rolling as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He was incredible, and I think he'll be a mainstay in our sides whenever he's named. And let's hope he doesn't go too well against the Mighty Maroons in a couple of Wednesdays' time. So, as you can see, viewers and listeners, the Fantasy Bros continue to have plenty of success across all competitions. Make sure you join us as we come live to you every Wednesday night throughout the season at 6 p.m. Sharing you all of the valuable information that you might need. And I can see Michael Cozzi there in the comments saying he's going to need a lot of our expertise this week, given the plethora of buys and players out on Origin duty. So that's what you can expect here every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. We're going to reveal who we want to play across all of the positions in terms of the players we should target. We'll talk about some pod options, and we'll talk about the players that we're looking to fade and give you some reasons as to why. We'll reveal our consensus starting 13 for a classic or a starter side. We'll also reveal our full diamond prime time at starting 13 as well. And over the buys, I think that team is going to have to get quite funky to win that major prize. And there's only a couple of games on the Thursday and Friday as well. Wouldn't it be nice to get a nice win under the belt heading into the weekend? We'll also talk about the key players in the under 24 competition. That's Stats Lab Prime Time, the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown competition as well. And also, viewers and listeners will have their chance to win some cards like we always do. There's been some Ripper cards already given away. So make sure you get involved in the BroDown ShowDown later on at the end of the show. Also, if you haven't already, help us out. Please go subscribe to us on our socials. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, Facebook, and Insta all throughout the season. And if you're sitting here watching it on YouTube as well, make sure you give us a quick follow on the other socials. Just type in at FantasyBros AU. Plenty of content, plenty of pack and card giveaways throughout the season. Also, check out the Fantasy Bros website. Make an effort to get a little bit more on there throughout the coming season as well. That's www.fantasybrosau.com.
Yep, definitely. And for those that may be stumbling across this show for the first time, it's not too late to get involved with GameDay Squad. It's probably at a point in the season where a lot of other fantasy platforms, you may not be going too well. You've got a lot of injuries. The origin period and the bye period means that you've got a lot of players missing. So it might be a really good opportunity to jump across now. Go to the website, download the app. That's GameDay Squad. Create your account. As you're doing that, you'll be prompted to put in a promo code. Use FBRL26. You're going to get 3x9 player common packs just for doing that. Really easy, straight off the bat. You're also going to have an opportunity to complete a few more tasks to get you involved in the game. So that's putting a trade on the market. It's opening your first pack. It's putting together your first team. And then there you're also going to get a lot more bronze starter packs as well as you'll get another 3x9 player common pack. So you're going to have plenty of cards there to be able to start your squads, particularly that classic starter squads. And I know a big shout out to Zoe Zucchinis, who started at the beginning of the season just using those free packs. And she had a nice top 10 finish in the Contender competition, which is a nice, easy access point for new users. So massive shout out to Zoe there and the success that she's having. And it just shows that it doesn't matter when you start, there's plenty of opportunity to build those squads and start competing early on. So make sure you get involved. There's plenty of prizes and pack prizes to be won as well as cash. So make sure you get involved and collect those cards, coach it up and compete against some of the best that we've got in the fantasy world. Mate, let's jump into, before we get into what we usually do and start looking at some players, let's talk through some of the round 12 casualties. We've obviously got a number of teams on the bye, as well as that Queensland versus New South Wales origin selection. Do you want to talk through some of the main key players that we're going to miss this weekend in teams?
Yeah, absolutely. On screen, obviously run through the buys very quickly for those listening. Don't put any Broncos, Eels, Roosters, Sharks, Panthers, Knights, or Tigers players into your team for this round. They won't score you any points. And also, anyone in the Queensland versus New South Wales 19-man squads won't be featuring for their club teams either. I think 20th man will be released to play on the weekend. So as far as I know, Fini Fuiaki will be released from the Queensland camp to play for the Finns. And boy, we need him in our sides. But here's just a list of some of the casualties, some of the players that will be without, given that their club is playing, but they're on representative duty. We won't be able to pick Harry Grant in our hooker spot. Hutto Young and Haumole Olakau'atu, gee, they would have been two handy edge-back rowers. They're both on origin duty. Tolu Kula, we would have thought he would have been the number one centre this week with Herbie Farnworth ruled out for injury. He's got a blue selection. He'll be lining up there on the wing. Critter could have been handy in that same spot. Hammer, Tabuai, Fido would have been handy as well, but there's a pretty good replacement there in Dolphins colours. But yeah, so we've got to look deep into the catalogue and find some replacements, and that's what you and I are going to do now, Dyl.
Yep, definitely. As always, we say to any new users that may need some extra cards, particularly with this round 12 and all of the buys, make sure you hit us up over on Discord. The GameDay Squad Discord is awesome for helping out new users, so make sure you get across there and check that out. Just before we get into our previews as well, massive shout out to Sif Kanga. He's always here nice and early, and he got an up the wires in with his howdy, let's get rowdy as well. So good on you, Sif, for being here once again. I saw you pulled a Dill Lucas diamond just earlier, so it's a great one for the squads over the next few weeks. Alrighty, let's jump into the hooker position to kick us off, and we've got three really strong considerations. Oliver Pascoe obviously storms ahead there. Damien Cook is available as well. Jeremy Marshall-King has made his way into the starting side. He's been off the bench the last couple of weeks, so we'll talk through why we like those three in a moment. In terms of our point of difference, Wade Egan stormed in front and had a really good game for the Warriors last weekend. Could be an option this week. Reed Marnie as well for the Cowboys. And then a couple of players that we're looking at fading, Tommy Starling and Bailey Hayward. But, mate, do you want to kick us off? Who are you going to as your number one hooker this week?
Yeah, it's definitely between Cook and Pascoe. I'm thinking maybe the dual hooker. I'll talk about Damien Cook because I know you're pretty big on Pascoe as well as I am. But look, Cookie was pretty outstanding against the Panthers last week. He scored 94 with absolutely no attacking stats, and he should have had a try on the stroke of halftime as well. I think he was robbed just quietly, being ruled kicking the ball out of Brian To'o's hands after he had gained control. I don't think there was a lot of control in that with the ball still on the ground. But anyway, 60 tackles and just the 2 missed. Gee, that's a great ratio when you're making 60 and only falling off 2. He also broke 5, so there's a plus. There's a positive gain there in terms of tackle breaks versus missed tackles. Look, the Warriors are red hot, and I like Damien Cook because it's a similar matchup here. The Panthers are such a dominant side. They control the footy and they use the footy a lot. The Wars are going to be the exact same. They're going to beat the Dragons. They're going to have a lot of footy. They're going to score tries and have back-to-back sets. And that's where Damien Cook is going to make his tackles. I wouldn't be surprised to see him raise the bat and get 50-odd tackles again. And look, his running game's been pretty good. When he gets the 80 minutes, and we know he's all but guaranteed to get the 80 minutes with no Jacob Little, his PPM's pretty good. He's got 0.8 PPM for the season. But look, that includes a pretty poor 27 in 52 minutes against Manly, a 38 in 58, and a 33 in 55 as well. So if you look beyond those lower minute poorer scores, that PPM and average is even better on paper. So I think here against the Warriors, there's going to be plenty of tackling, and we know that he's pretty elite when he runs the footy. Did you hear that he was a beach sprinter?
You just have to ask him, mate. Before I go and talk about Pascoe, is there a world where you are going to play the double hooker strategy where we turn our nose up at it pretty much all season, but with so many middles out, and we'll talk through those in a moment, is that an opportunity for you to really bank some consistency behind Damien Cook and then play the upside of Oliver Pascoe?
Yeah, I love it. He was so exciting. I think that's a really good 1-2 punch between both hookers. Pascoe's got a running game just like Cook, but look, he could have found his way over the line 2 or 3 times, and he's electric. He knows when to run. He scores 2 tries in every 3 Queensland Cup games. So that's a pretty impressive record. And it's almost translating to the NRL as well. He knows how to find the try line. He's super fast. He takes on those middle forwards. This is the type of game that suits a hooker like him. They can just get out and run past those tide markers. So absolutely, it is a strategy this round. I've got that double in one of my teams. I'm flirting with it in at least 2 teams. And when you and I talk through some middles and some edges, and we talk about maybe why we're not interested in some, it might reaffirm the fact to go the Cookie Pascoe combination. I think they'll both get through plenty of work. I'd love the 80 minutes from Pascoe, and that was probably just the one disappointing thing with Luke Summerton on the bench, isn't it?
Yeah, and as you said, he really was probably on track for quite a big score before he was subbed off. It's quite a weird situation. He played the 80 the week before, and then he missed out on about 12 minutes worth of game time, which, it probably didn't hurt coaches too much if you did take the risk and play him. He managed 38 tackles, 68 running meters, 2 tackle breaks. That's 51 GDS points that we can bank in that base and power. He did have 2 missed tackles, and then 2 errors as well. So there's 12 demerits in that, which we kind of get used to with a hooker. So I wouldn't read too much into it. But it was the key attacking stats: the 1 offload, the 1 line break, the 1 line break assist, the try assist, and of course he bagged his own try as well to add 23 from the attacking stats. He's got a rolling 2-week average, Oliver Pascoe, of 71 GDS points. So that's when he is starting hooker for the Titans. That's far and above any of the elite options that we have in a normal full round side, let alone in a reduced week. So I think he's definitely a go-to. And then, it's just that question mark. Do we play both of them? Now, a lot of coaches are not necessarily going to have an Oliver Pascoe. So as Siv Kang has mentioned, Cook or JMK is going to be the play for him, unless he can find a bronze Pascoe in a common pack. In a common pack, or even one of those starter packs that you get each and every week. Is it JMK maybe just on the outer for you, due to probably the fact that he's been on the bench the last couple of weeks, and then Donohue's now also on the bench, which could see him come on and give JMK a spell? Is that what your concern is at the moment with JMK?
Yeah, there's no guarantee he'll see more than 50 minutes. And we know that Cookie's going to push the 80 if fit, and Pascoe got 80 and then close enough to 70 the weekend just gone. And it's probably just the minutes coming back from injury with Donohue on the bench, like you mentioned. Look at his numbers from last season. He had some pretty big scores, had a handful of scores above 60. So he's definitely got some attacking upside. They sort of coincided when he did score. scored 4 tries last year through all of the matches that he did play, and he's pretty similar to Pascoe in terms of ducking and going for the try line close to the line. But with how good the Finns are going, normally it's just the hooker delivering that ball out to the halves and then out to Herbie and the wingers who are finishing. So he may not get too many attacking stats, although they're without the hammer and Herbie this round. So the game plan might tighten up a little bit. But yeah, look, Sif, if you're going between Cookie and JMK, my bet's probably on Cookie there, probably a little bit more safety in terms of minutes and getting through the base.
Now, the other point of difference is Reed Marnie. He's up against the Rabbits. They're giving up the most to any hooker. It's the easiest matchup for hookers this round. They're giving up 46 GDS points on average. Is Marnie someone you're just purely going to save for the Sunday Showdown, considering that they're the only game on the Sunday? So that's the only sort of hooker option you really want to go with. There's not really a great option for the Rabbitohs. Obviously, Peter Mamazalis is back. But is Reed Marnie just someone you're happy to just play on Sunday? Or is he maybe someone you get into that pod side, maybe if you're just looking for a pod and classic or one of those competitions?
Yeah, look, I'd recommend steering clear of Reed Marnie. In a week long, if you're forced to play him on a Sunday, then so be it. Second most missed tackles in the competition, only behind Tommy Starling. He's missed 42 through his 10 games, so 4.2 missed tackles a game isn't good reading. That's already 12 and a bit minus points. And when he's only making only 30 odd tackles per game, that's only less than 20 points in tackles and base. He doesn't have a huge running game. The halves and the fullback are doing a lot of work there for the Cowboys. So yeah, no, the matchup might look pretty good, but I just don't think he's the type of player that's going to rack up the fantasy points like a few other blokes on offer this round.
Yeah, definitely. And then the two fades there, I think it's just purely based on that matchup. The Starling up against the Dolphins. The Dolphins are actually the hardest matchup for hookers. They're only allowing or restricting 31 GDS points. And then Hayward up against the Storm, which is the fourth hardest matchup. So I'm happy to just put a line through both of those players. Obviously, if you need to dig deep, then one of those first 5 options, hopefully you have. As I said, if you don't necessarily have one of those bronze cards in your possession across the strongly considered all the points of difference, make sure you hit us up on Discord. We'll see what we can do. Alrighty, let's jump into the middles. And obviously we're missing quite a few middles across either injury, suspension, bye, or origin. We've got Haas, Carrigan, May, Twal, Yo as some of the key middles that we would normally play. They're all out. So I feel like a strategy of just 3 middles and looking elsewhere is probably what we're going to be focusing on. Firstly, Jacko Ford. Before we get into the others, he just has to be the number 1 player this week for your middle. Is that right?
You're doing my boy Toby Couchman dirty there.
Mate, it's all about the Warriors this week. Come on, let's go. But yeah, I think the two of them definitely, Jackson Ford for me and Toby Couchman, are just 2 simple plays. They're 2 elite middle options that we do have available to us. And you'll talk through some of the reasons why Toby Couchman is unreal. Jackson Ford, I think, was hard done by missing a Blues jersey, going with Mitch Barnett as teammate instead, where I think Jackson Ford has easily been one of the best middles in the competition all season. And the comments made by coaching staff about why he didn't make it is baffling. But look, talk us through why Toby Couchman then is your number 1 player this week for the middle.
Yeah, just on Ford, not versatile enough, can't play on the edge despite 39 career games on the edge and just 21 in the middle or something silly like that. But that snub hopefully puts a bit of a rocket up Jacko Ford, and he just proves to Loz and the rest of the coaching staff what they miss out on, and probably get a man of the match performance, a 2-try haul, a 80-odd GDS outing, and everyone that plays him will be fist pumping. But no, for me, it's Toby Couchman. Pretty slow start to the year, but 5 60-plus scores in a row without a single attacking stat. No try assist, no line break, line break assist across those 5 matches of 60-plus point scores. In the past 3 games, he's made 145 tackles, including a 59 just then against Penrith. 3 misses from 145 tackles made across that stretch of 3 games. 1 missed tackle per game. Insane tackle efficiency ratio, and he's probably going to be someone that the Blues call on in the not too distant future. The base is there. He can break tackles. He can offload the footy. He's getting plenty of minutes. The Wars are going to have plenty of footy, so he's just going to tackle all day long. No-brainer for me. It's a big yes. The only reservation, slight hesitation there, is there are reports he was seen in a sling departing the plane, obviously named for the round. If he survives the 24-hour cut and then the 90 minutes beforehand, given the poor options that we have, I think you ought to play him anyway. And just keep in the back of the mind that if he does go down with a bit of a burner, then oh well, you don't really want to leave him out just in case. And then he goes on his massive 65-point, 70-minute game.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, moving on from that, though, hopefully he's all right and he gets through the minutes. Jackson Ford is going to get through 80 minutes of work. There's no doubt about it, having Mitch Barnett obviously not there. Aaron Clark is another one who potentially could be a big name that maybe people haven't thought about due to the availability. He's on my list. I've got 3 in particular that I'm looking at: Uday Kamanu, Clark, and then John Boney has come in. JB Boney, welcome. Horsburgh as a pod. I think you've read my notes, mate. I've got him there as a pod as well. Where are you leaning in terms of those 3 in particular? Clark, Uday Kamanu, and Horsburgh as your third option?
Yeah, Clark for me, he was enormous in that win over Brazilian. He typically, puts the team on his shoulders during this Origin period. He hasn't started as good as he was last season. Barnett's back out of the side now, and this is the time that Aaron Clark really goes bang. The minutes have been down, just 51 so far, but he did get 61 in the weekend just gone against the Bronx there. So if that's an indication as to his sort of workload moving forward, with a PPM of 1.03 for the season, if he can get a bump from that 50 minutes that he has been seeing up to 60, I think that's an absolute no-brainer. He's pretty damaging close to the line as well. He's already scored 4 tries. He's got three assists this season. He's got a line break in every second game, and he's breaking 2 tackles per game. So there's plenty of base there. If we can see a slight increase in minutes with Capewell out of the pack, Barnett not there either, I think he's going to be a great play, and a bit more confidence in him over someone like Stefano.
Yeah. I guess the difference for me is Stefano probably offers more in terms of the tackle breaking ability, although he sort of fluctuates at the moment. We relied on him early in the season for his tackle break ability, but he's still averaging 4.2 tackle breaks a game, whereas Aaron Clark at the moment is on that 2 tackle breaks per game. The other one that we can throw in there is then Corey Horsburgh. He's currently making 34 tackles per game. He's running about 110 running meters and then making 2.3 tackle breaks as well. Obviously, he and Joe Tarpany are going to have a lot of work to do. There's quite a few Raiders out, both through injury and through Origin selection. Are you just sort of putting a line through a couple of Raiders, knowing that they're probably not going to play as well as what we've seen in the past, or is someone like Horsburgh going to have to stand up and do a lot of work through the middle because of, say, like the likes of Noah Martin and Hudson Young aren't there at the moment?
Yeah, look, he's definitely capable. Just the 53 minutes averaging for the season, but promising in his past 2 matches, seeing upwards of 64 and 65. So if Stick is going to give him that role, two of his better scores this season have come in those past 2 games where he has seen an increase in minutes. So there's definitely some merit there. Their back row situation is an absolute disaster. I think they're on sort of 4th and 5th string player options there. So the pack's pretty weak. Maybe Stick does call on Horsburgh to get through those bigger minutes, and JB Boney may be onto something there, just locking in Big Red, who's going to get plenty of minutes. He may have a bit of a brain snap and do something silly. He will miss tackles when he races out of the line. He will concede penalties. But look, if he's making 40-odd tackles and running for 120-odd meters like he can do, pretty safe play in the same sort of Aaron Clark, Utoya Kamanu type role.
Yeah, and I probably would suggest Aaron Clark just slightly has that attacking upside, as you touched on, more likely to probably get over with a try. So definitely Aaron Clark. From there, then moving and having a look at the fades, Adam Elliott and Mariota. I think Adam Elliott, for me, he found himself a dummy half when he entered the game the other day, and I couldn't believe it. I sort of had a bit of a laugh to myself that it's a bit strange, but look, I'm not really keen on his role. He's starting at 13, but he could give Mamouzelos a spell in that dummy half role if they want to. So, yeah, I just can't see any big minutes, and therefore I'm putting a line through Adam Elliott. Is Mariota someone you're just putting a line through purely based on he's the 4th, 5th, 6th option that the Raiders have?
Yeah, I think he's just in there because they don't have anyone else. And he's a big boy. He's a middle forward by trade, and Stick's thrown him out there on the edge, maybe just to do a defensive job there. I think the Raiders are going to get found out down those edges against the Finns that are pretty slick down their edges as well. The team might change before kickoff, but look, they don't have too many other options, and I think the teams are going to target Mariota, who's in a true middle, that bigger body, not going to have that same sort of mobility to play big minutes there on the edge. if you see him and go, oh, he's on the edge, going to play 80 minutes, I can play him as a middle forward. It looks like a cheat code. I'd temper expectations a little bit. Just doesn't have the PPM and still probably won't even see minutes, 80 minutes if he does play on the edge.
Yeah, agreed. And just quickly, Sif Kang has raised a good point, and it's probably a question for us: is are we happy? Are we feeling confident in playing potentially 3 middles and maybe an edge in the same game? Jacko Ford, Aaron Clark, Toby Couchman, and potentially his brother Ryan Couchman, all in the same game, and you've knocked over half your team in one go. Is that something you're comfortable with, targeting the one game, even though knowing that potentially it could be a high-scoring game on the Warriors side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't mind them being forwards if they were backs, and I had 3 or 4 in the game and maybe 2 or 3 from each team, I'd probably think twice. But since they're forwards and we rely on the base and the work from the forwards, I think, like we said, Ford and Clark, definitely plenty of attack in them. And we just want to see Couchman, Cookie, the other Couchman, Dylan Egan, those types of blokes just getting through plenty of defensive work. That's how I see the game playing out. And it's even, bittersweet. It's even sweeter when one of those Dragons do cross the try line and get some attacking points in that way. So I don't mind it, given that they're forwards. Bit of a different situation if it was the backs.
For sure. Alrighty, let's jump into the middles and into the edges. And we've got quite a few options considering. Look, just going through some of the ones that we like. Strongly considered. Jacob Preston, Lasardi is on fire at the moment. Fini Fuaki, as you mentioned, released back to the Dolphins, so he should be playing. Our points of difference, Zach Hosking finds his way into the starting side. Ewan Aitken has had some decent games on the edge over the last couple of weeks. And then in our fades, Tallis Duncan unfortunately finds himself out at centre. Not quite keen on him. And then Jacob Laban, who's starting with Kurt Capewell out. I just don't think he's up to scratch at the moment in terms of his fantasy output. But let's start with the strongly considered. From those 3, who's your number 1 edge player this week?
It's Lasardi. And if this was a full round competition with no teams on bye, no state of origin, the conversation I think would be pretty similar. He's turning into an every week must start. And there's even more upside this round, obviously, with so many teams out. Look, the Storm won't have Munster there on the left-hand side of the field. Lasardi will line up there on the right outside Jerome Hughes, which means, plenty more ball going down that direction. And you'd expect every opportunity that Hughes uses him a little bit more frequently closer to the line there. So, yeah, he's every chance of breaking tackles, offloading, scoring 4-pointers. He's coming off a 63 in base without any attacking stats. It proves that he's got plenty of safety with high attacking upside. And if the Storm direct the ball down that right-hand channel even more, he's gonna cash in. His worst score so far this season, 49, returning from injury in 63 minutes. Every other match, all 4 matches above 80 minutes. And the lowest of those scores, 63. He's got a 64, a 74, and an 84. Loves fantasy points, Lasardi, and he'll be in all of my sides this round.
And to add to that, the Dogs are allowing a decent amount of points to right edges as well, 44 on average, which is one of the highest of the round with the available the available teams. So definitely there's some opportunity there. As you said, a lot of ball's going to go down that right side. He's probably an easy stack with Jerome Hughes as well. That key playmaker of Munster is out, and he obviously demands a lot of the ball, but that right side attack is going to be pretty massive for the Storm. So that should be a really good option. He's probably one of the better options as well in terms of base and power floor, and then having that upside of attack as well. Another really good option that's got a pretty decent matchup this week is Jacob Preston on the other side of the field up against the Storm. They're actually allowing 52 GDS points to right edges, which is the most this week. That increases to 63 GDS points to right edges over the last month due to Fini Fuaki and Tallis Duncan in particular, where they scored 72 and 99 respectively down those sides. So I think Jacob Preston is someone that is going to be highly owned and going to have a lot of coaches flocking to him very quickly. And I think for me, he's going to be a big salary pod for a lot of coaches where he's going to have a big upside. We know he's got the base and power. Look, we've talked about it plenty of times where at one point he was an absolute fade and then he came out of oblivion and had a big game against the Panthers. And we've sort of seen ups and downs from Preston. Are we just going to throw him in there, bit of salary on him and just hope that he has one of his up games, knowing that pretty much everyone else plays him, so it doesn't matter too much if he does have a down game?
Yeah, I just want to say that I never seem to get the Jacob Preston play right. Always an excellent fantasy player. We know he's dealing with a couple of AC shoulder joint complaints, getting needled still getting through 80 minutes, but maybe not quite the same amount of fantasy ceiling that he showed last season. I just can't get him right. I sat him for that 80 odd against the Panthers, played him for plenty of 40s and 50s that have been pretty underwhelming, sat him for his 63 the week just gone. He's probably someone who's close to Origin selection, maybe dirty that he wasn't in the frame or missed out. So maybe he uses that as well as a bit of motivation this round. So yeah, I think there are plenty of ticks in his favor, and he'll certainly be in a number of my teams this round.
Yeah. And then that man, Fini Fuiaki, I think he was really hard done by not getting that Queensland jersey over the likes of Britton Nakora and Kurt Capewell. But, obviously with that means that we do get him back in our sides. And again, is he just someone that we're happy to throw heaps of salary on and just know that he's going to be highly owned from pretty much everyone, purely based on what he's done over the last 11 rounds. He's been absolutely unreal.
He has. And yeah, I hope he does use that snubbing as a bit of motivation as well. I'm sorry, but the Britton Nikora decision over him is not warranted by any means. Maybe if we're talking 2022, then absolutely Fini Fuiaki was probably still in school then, so it would make sense. But that was when Nikora played his last sort of decent season of footy, it seems. Pretty disappointing there. But like you said, we got Fini Fuiaki in our GDS sides. He'll feature in all of mine. A lot of attacking upside from him if Katoa can capitalize on that good matchup on that side of the field. I think Fini Fuiaki is going to build on his 3 tries this season. I think he's more of a try scorer than that. An absolute tackle breaker, just hasn't quite gotten the same amount of tries that we might expect. So he could be sitting a lot higher in terms of averages and the list of top edge forwards, but he just hasn't quite found the try line as much as we expect.
Yeah, I do like, though, when the Dolphins do go at the back behind Fini Fuiaki, because I know the next play or two, he's going to get that short ball and close to the line. He's crossed the line maybe 10 times and unfortunately has just missed out on those tries for whatever reason, being held up or losing the ball, etc. So we know there's more tries coming from him. Yeah, every time they go at the back, it's just mean that's one pass closer to him crashing over and scoring off that short ball that we've seen Preston do so much as well. So we've got that upside. Look, a player that I don't have on screen there, but someone that I'm pretty keen on is Keon Kalongamatangi. Named on the edge at the moment. We'll have to see what happens with that side. We've obviously quite a few edges playing in that team, but Kalongamatangi can play through the middle as well. And look, potentially based on the way that they're looking, he potentially might be on the left. And that if that's the case, that might be someone that I'm targeting. The Cowboys allowing an average of 48 GDS points to left edges this season. Kalongamatangi himself been pretty quiet for the first 11 rounds, his average at 40. However, he's coming off that 60-point performance against the Finns, although that's through the middle. Going back to his 2025 season, he had the first 9 games where he played in the back row and he averaged 50. He had a couple of high games of around 70 or 80 in that. And one of those wasn't with a try. One of them was. So I think there's some opportunity there for Kalongamatangi to have a big game. The downside's obviously going to be that he doesn't have Latrell outside of him, but AJ is back and we've got Cody Walker there that can feed him as well if he does play on that left. It's just going to be whether there's some mind games played from Bennett, and there's a few switcheroos happen in that last sort of that 90 minutes before kickoff, and that's probably what I'm going to keep an eye on. If that's the case and he does move to the middle, maybe I'm less likely to play him because that matchup just won't be as good, and we've got 3 really good options as well as having the option of playing the second hooker. So it's probably just going to be up to that game time decision and having a look at where they go with that final team.
Hasn't quite hit his straps of last season, but 80-minute Keon that we did see in 2025 was an absolute must. Come on, Wayne, bring us back 80-minute Keon, please. Gee, he's made some interesting decisions there with Tallis Duncan out in the centres. I think that kills his fantasy value from a base and attacking perspective on that right-hand side of the field, given the attacking ball goes left and the right-hand side just seemed to do all the defence.
Yep, definitely. And then one more player quickly. Sifkanga touched on it. But what about Ryan Couchman? Is he someone that we want to get into our week-long, our full slate sides, or is he someone purely just for your under 24s and you're going to bank a really good score at the moment with that Ryan Couchman in your under 24s side?
Yeah, gee, that's a tough one. His PPM is insane. He's an absolute workhorse. He keeps seemingly getting named in the starting team, moving to the interchange, but just absolutely powers through the work. Another 60 minutes there against the Panthers, almost 60 odd points. basically all through base, but he is getting a couple of offloads and tackle breaks away. If he starts, I think he's only started the match once or twice this season. He keeps coming off the bench for whatever reason, then playing out the rest of the match. If he actually does start in the very first minute, I'll definitely look long and hard at him on my GameDay Squad screen and probably put him in a couple of teams, because if he's starting, he's every chance of staying on and playing big minutes and scoring big points.
Yeah, and it's probably that base that, like you said, he does offer. He's got plenty of base, averaged 43 tackles across the last 2 games and 150 running meters to go with that. His missed tackles and his tackle breaks sort of offset each other. So he's sort of sitting at that 50-odd base and power. So, yeah, if he is named to start, I definitely think I'll be having a long, hard look and potentially playing him in a couple of my pod sides. Alrighty, let's jump into the next group, and that is our halves. And there's 3 really clear options this week. Some really good options that we would probably play in a full round slate anyway. In Jaden Campbell, Jerome Hughes, Jamal Fogarty. We've also got some really good points of difference that have some good matchups. You already touched on the Izzy Katoa matchup down that right side, with linking up with Fini Fuiaki potentially. Jake Clifford as well will be in a lot of people's Sunday Showdown side. And then our fades, we've got Ethan Sanders and Cody Walker. For me, the only question mark is around JC and that tough matchup on paper with the Seagulls. Is that still somewhere that you're happy to go with, knowing that at times we've seen Jaden Campbell be almost matchup proof, that he can sort of jag a try or even a few attacking stats out of nowhere against the run of play? Is that someone where you're still happy to go with, knowing that matchup's going to be quite tough?
Yeah, I am going with him, but yeah, he's, like you said, so close to matchup proof. He's just not quite there. He does have those really low floors he can do against a tough opposition, but still the 3rd best averaging half and averaging above 60 points. So he can definitely, Titans don't have to be winning matches for Campbell to score well. Obviously, when he's taking full length of the field intercepts or scoring 4 or 5 goals off the boot in a 30 to 24 point loss, that sort of softens the blow a little bit. But yeah, the matchup's tough. He's just so good of a player, can rack up points so quickly. He is someone that's in all of my sides. I don't love it when I look at it, knowing that the Titans are probably going to get steamrolled. But if I was to throw a Clifford in, who's got a pretty nice matchup, should be plenty of points there, kicking goals, playing at home. Bunny's a little bit depleted. It's probably going to be at the expense of JC. So maybe I just put him in one of those sides, so I'm not relying on JC across all 3 just in case.
Yeah, and that's, I think, where I'm going. JC in my main competition at the moment, but I've actually got Izzy Katoa as slightly ahead of a few other players. He is one of our pods. He's up against the Raiders. As we've already talked about, Raiders are down on a few troops, particularly on their edges. And the Raiders are allowing 83 GDS points to halfbacks over the last month. So there's obviously a vulnerability there. We know that Katoa really likes to target certain matchups. He's been targeting that right side in particular with the boot, with Bostock being able to jump above every other human in the competition. So I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity there. That right side of the Dolphins is going to look pretty dangerous. Even though we've got no Herbie Farmworth, we've got no Hammer Tabuai-Fidow, I think the Dolphins are going to look really good this weekend up against the Raiders. And we've got probably an opportunity to play Katoa in a few of our competitions. So I'm really keen to get him into a few sides. The other player that I'm really keen to get in, as I said, I'm going to stack him with Lasardi, is Jerome Hughes. Munster out, it means that everything's going to go through Jerome. He's going to take the dominant role in the halves. And they've got a really good matchup against the Dogs. The Dogs have allowed 56 GDS points this season to right side halves. That increases to 65 over the last month of footy to right side halves. So I think Jerome Hughes, we've relied on him a few times where we've got this really nice matchup. The only downside, the only concern that I have with that is obviously no Grant and no Munster means that half the spine's missing. And it's just a bit of a concern as to how they're going to gel and what that team's going to look like. We know that they've sort of come back from oblivion. They were down, the 7 games in a row they didn't win. They finally bounced back. But this game might be a little bit tougher for them. The Dogs as well, they haven't defended too well over the last couple of weeks, but maybe this is going to be the reason that they pick themselves up, because really they haven't lost too many players at all. They've got pretty much almost a full-strength side, especially with Jacob Carraz back. Is Hughes still someone that you're pretty keen on as well?
Yeah, he is. I'm just running through his list of scores through the Origin period last year, starting at round 13. They had the round 12 bye. So this is when Harry Grant, Cam Munster either in the team or, being managed or not backing up or playing fewer minutes, where really the team became Jerome Hughes's, which is what we're going to see this weekend. Round 13 started with 46, scored a 95, 49, 92, 59, 61, 70 between rounds 13 and 20 there. So some huge scores. Scored a chunk of tries through that period as well. So 4 tries across those 6 matches, and only scored 4 tries in about 15 or 16 matches for the rest of the season. So clearly puts the side on his shoulders, clearly gets his hands on the footy a lot more. His kick meters go up during that time as well, because Munster and Grant still do a lot of kicking from their positions on the field as well. So yeah, I think even if the Storm aren't winning matches, he's still going to get an uptick in plenty of volume, and he's every chance of scoring close to the line or putting Lasardi through a hole too.
Yeah, and that's perfect for our stack. Either way, we're going to get points, GDS points based on that. So yeah, I'm keen to get Hughes into my side. Jamal Fogarty though is got to have some question marks over him. He was an obvious play last week, and he missed out on 26 points, whatever it was, because he wasn't kicking goals. Now, obviously, goal kicking was going to Garrick, and we missed out on all of those points. Is he still someone, even though he doesn't have the kicking tee? Are we going to go back to Fogarty one more time, knowing that he's got a pretty decent matchup against the Titans, allowing about 44 at the moment to right halves in the competition?
Yeah, I think if it was a tough team, I'd be much more hesitant. But he's definitely not kicking goals. It's not looking great since Garrick has been kicking well and Fogarty's dealing with the groin. What I still don't get, though, is when a half gives up the kicking tee to someone else, but then still kicks for 400, 500, 600 meters in general play, where he's got to absolutely roost the ball downfield, or using the same motion, the same power, that sort of thing. But he can't line the ball up on a tee with, no one running at him, and just has to guide it between 2 sticks. It just blows my mind that doesn't happen. I obviously be a lot more confident if he was kicking goals. I still think there's enough upside in a Titans team that give up plenty of points for him to score some points through base and attack. And obviously every chance of him reclaiming those duties, either from the first minute of the match or, if anything does happen to Ruben Garrick, he's obviously the next man up. And if you can get the kicking tee in that fixture, you don't want to not have the goal kicker just because you thought he might not be taking the tee. So yeah, he will be in mine. Less confident. Love to see him with the tee, but when we talk about the centers, there's a big plus for why we like Garrick, because he's likely to keep the tee.
Yeah, definitely. And before we get there, Tony's Legends has put out a question. What about Ward as a smoky pod, lining up on the right side for the Rabbitohs? Is that someone that you're having a look at, or are we just going to leave him and save him for that Sunday showdown?
Yeah, definitely we'll get a run in the Sunday showdown. I think a big salary pod on option there as well. Had a really nice match in round 10 there against the Sharkies. Plenty of kicking meters, 580 in that fixture. Had a try assist, a line break assist, and ran the footy pretty nicely as well. So yeah, you talked about that side of the field being a nice matchup. Attacking wise for the Bunnies, he's not in my top sort of 3 or 5, but definitely a pod play in the week-long competition, and definitely a big option for a salary, throw a lot of salary at, and hope other coaches just play a lower version of him.
Yeah, and Tony, just to support your question there, mate, the Cowboys are allowing 65 GDS points to right halves this season. So, yeah, there's plenty of opportunity for Ward to have a big game. Alrighty, you touched on the centres. Let's jump into them and talk us through straight away why Ruben Garrick's probably your number 1 centre this week.
Well, yeah, it is if he reclaims that kicking tee. Obviously, we probably won't know until they score their first try within probably the first 3 or 4 minutes to see who is the goal kicker. They'll probably both be attempting goals in the pre-game if anyone is there watching. Flick us a message on Discord or in the chat or something and let us know what you can see. But yeah, I think it's all about the status of Jamal Fogarty's groin. Not knowing who's going to kick goals before the game means if you play both of them, then you guarantee the Manly goal kicker. So you just throw both in your lineup, and then whoever takes the tee, you go, you beauty. Garrick isn't a great play when he doesn't have the kicking tee. It obviously puts a nice sort of 15 to 21 point buffer on his score when Manly have a nice matchup and are scoring points. So yeah, hasn't had a good season playing in the centers, but when he kicks 7 or 8 goals in a big win, that's a great little buffer on his points. He's not averaging like we saw him last season. But the matchup there against the Titans, if he kicks goals, we don't have many center options. I think he's got to be in consideration for all coaches.
Yeah, wasn't it about this time last year where he went and put 4 tries on the board about this time and kicked all those goals as well? I'll have to check exactly when that was, but it was around this time, I feel, when we sort of wrote him off and he came out and scored a massive score. So, yeah, let's hope that he gets back in sort of that territory. He does have a pretty decent matchup against the Titans, allowing 49 down that right side for centers this season so far. That's increased to 62 GDS points over the last month, and probably down to Dane Gagai more than anything, scoring 75 against them last round. So there's definitely some vulnerability there. And yeah, if Garrett gets the kicking tee as well, we're going up in 3s on top of that. So there's plenty of opportunity. The next one, the question mark then is over which Cowboys center are you looking to play? Tom Chester's been unreal in games. Jackson Purdue started quite well and has dropped off a little bit. He's got the slightly better matchup on his side of the field. Is it a really close coin toss, or do you think Tommy Chester is the number one player this week in terms of Cowboy centers?
Yeah, I just think he provides a bit more safety. Obviously had a down game against the Roosters, but the Roosters are always going to be a pretty tough matchup. 48.6 average for Tommy Chester, just the 3 tries as a center. He's getting it done in base. He's had 3 matches where he's run for over 200 meters. And when he's running the footy that much, there's no surprise he's breaking tackles. He broke 7, 6, and 6 in those 3 matches. So I think he provides a bit more of a floor. And in a week where the center position is really tough, if you go searching for a gem and it doesn't pay off, you could be kicking yourself with the 25 or 30 when you could have just locked in maybe a 45 with some upside from Tommy Chester there. So yeah, despite the matchup looking not as good, I think I have a bit more trust in him, at least getting it done with the base, and if he can score a try or 2 off the back of some, maybe some Scotty Drinkwater magic, then I'll be cheering. He still has 4 scores above 60 this season, so he certainly can get it done. Let's just hope he can get another big score this week when I play him.
Yeah, definitely. Look, apologies to anyone as well who's looking at the screen thinking, where is Herbie Farnworth? Why aren't they talking about the number 1 centre in the competition? The late mail out today is that he's been ruled out for the game. So please take your Herbie Farnworth cards out of your team and have a look at some of the other options that we've got, including Tom Chester, Purdue, and Garrett. We've also got Nick Meaney potentially as a strongly considered, probably more so just based on that kicking tee, having the kicking duties. Potentially a little bit of an easier matchup there. Leotau looks like they're going to have quite an easy matchup up against the Dragons as well. It could be a nice little pod. For me, the coin toss is going to be over Chester and Purdue, and I think I'm slightly leaning Purdue at the moment just based on the numbers. Over the last 3 weeks, the Rabbitohs have allowed an average on the left side of 67 to Herbie, Ito, and Best. Whereas in the same 3 rounds, the Rabbits on the right side have restricted those right centres to 35. So that includes Bostock 61, but then also Gagai 7. So I think just purely based on the numbers, there's slightly more opportunity on the left side there. But I think it's still a coin toss. And more than likely, I'll probably get it wrong because there's so often that these 50-50s, you talk about the Jackson Prestons, we can't quite get that right. I often can't quite get the Purdue Chester right. And what I end up doing is putting Purdue into my under 24s, putting Chester into my full round slate. And so I've got the best of both worlds there and play them both. But I think I'm just going to lean Purdue at the moment with the Garrick matchup as well being really juicy, and just hoping that Purdue gets over for a try, where we've seen some absolute speed from Purdue in the past, and hopefully we can see that again. But yeah, very close there. The big fades, we keep putting him there. It's a bit like the Tino from a few weeks ago. We keep putting Val Holmes into our fade, but it's for really good reasons. Not only is his demerits just killing him still, he's not getting much attack together. The Dragons are not looking good in attack. Add to that, the Warriors are restricting that side of the field to only 32 GDS points for centres. So there's limited opportunity, I think, for Val Holmes. And then Seb Chris as well in a similar vein. Quite a tough matchup. The Raiders are down a few troops. He's not averaging too well. So I think you just put a line through Seb Chris and just look at one of those earlier options that we said. Is there anyone else there in terms of the centres that you really think should get a mention at all? Or let's jump into the wingers?
No, I think it's a pretty underwhelming position this round. If they can both knock up a 45, I'll probably be happy.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, agreed. That's probably the big thing. Temper your expectations. Look for that 45 and move on somewhere else. All right, into our wingers. Fortunately, we do have a couple of good options in our wing position. We've played them pretty much most weeks, and that's Suafai and Jermaine Asako, who is killing it at the moment. We've also got a sneaky play there that I'll throw to you in a moment because he's someone that you are really keen on and now strongly considered. In our points of difference, we've got Jacob Carraz, who is returning for the Bulldogs. Jack Bostock continues to score really well, playing out of position. So he's playing in the centres in real NRL, but we can pick him on the wing. And then our fades, Xavier Savage returns to the side, and then Jason Saab, I think, is a big fade. But talk through our out-of-position winger, another out-of-position winger that we've got, and Falalo for the Manly Seagulls playing that fullback role.
Yeah, a bit of a surprise when he lined up at fullback and Cooler back on the left centre against the Bronx back in round 10. He was decent in that match. He looked okay, scored 41 points in the full 80 minutes, but I think that was the run that he needed, and he looked like a gun fullback. Yeah, it was against the Tigers. They've been pretty poor in giving up points to fullbacks, but he didn't look like a winger playing fullback. He did look like a true fullback. He was backing up some of the big boys. He backed up Haumole Olakau'atu for a try, and he got through 265 run meters. He broke 3 tackles. He had 4 line break assists and 2 try assists. So his ball play for a winger in the fullback position, that's exactly what you want to see. You know, sometimes we've seen AJ sort of, you know, Alex Johnston from the past jump in at fullback when they've just needed it, and he just hasn't had the ball playing skills because he's been on a winger, been on the wing his whole career. He's just been paid to catch the footy and put it down. But no, that's what I love about Foyalo, that can actually ball play, and he's got some pretty damaging players outside him. Obviously, no Cooler there, but he will have Hopewade on the left and Saab's speed on the right. Manly is still a pretty solid team. Big favourites there against the Titans. So I think there's every chance we'll see him get through plenty of base, at least through those run meters, tackle breaks, and if he can get another couple of try assists or a try himself, I think that'll be a nice play, and maybe even a pod play where Sua and Azako are going to be the two most favoured, and some coaches might not want to run 3 wingers, despite obviously him being a fullback.
Yeah, and I guess that is the big one is, are you happy to play the fullback in the out of position play like we have done all season with Suafai, who continues to reward coaches for doing so? Obviously didn't quite hit the straps like he has in the past last week, but he's got a matchup against the Dogs now. They're allowing 50 GDS points to fullbacks over the last 3 weeks, including a 62 from Drinky. The concern that I have, though, is the obvious disparity between the Dogs at almost full strength, as I said, and then the Storm missing half their spine. Does it mean that Sue is going to get more ball in hand? Does it mean that he's going to get faded out of the game a little bit because there's not going to be as many opportunities? That question mark for me is just giving me pause. I'm still getting him into my side, I think, but it might not be as much as I have in the past. What are your thoughts around Sewer and that potential big matchup, but then the downside of having a couple of key players out?
Yeah, definitely. I am concerned. He hasn't played a lot of footy without both Grant and Munster there, so it'll be a big test. But maybe that's what he needs, and he steps up, and he has a lot more responsibility, and it pays off because he doesn't have Munster, barking orders on the left and Harry Grant organising through the middle. He's got to do a lot more of that himself. Hard to tell. This will tell us a lot about moving forward if we are going to play him with an understrength Storm side. I don't think I can leave him out of my team with the Dogs being pretty poor defensively. But yeah, obviously a pretty brave person if you leave him out, and he does return a 20-odd point performance. You'd be cheering and thinking that was a great play. So yeah, I can certainly see some merit in leaving him out. I think I still play him because there is certainly some upside. We've just seen he doesn't need a lot of space. He could step someone in a phone box. Let's be honest. He can break a game, and if he has one of those games and you don't have him in your side, you're sitting there shaking your head going, why did I leave one of the most explosive players out, explosive players in the competition out of my side?
Yeah, definitely. And then finally, Jermaine Asako, is it just simply the same sort of reasoning over the last few weeks? The attacking upside, the Finns actually at the moment are probably the most exciting team in the competition at the moment in terms of their attack. If he's not scoring tries himself, he's going to be kicking the goals. He's going to have a lot to say in this game. It's obviously a bit of a softer matchup as well. A couple of players missing for the Finns, but is it just the same as what we've seen over the last few weeks for Jermaine Asako?
Yeah, definitely probably gets a big uptick as well with Herbie Farnworth out. It sounds like Oren Keeley is going to play centre. That surprises me as well. So I think the ball's definitely going to head right a little bit more often. Katoa, Finay Filiaki, Bostock, and Azarko right-hand comment. Gee, the ball has to get there a bit, doesn't it? So if anything, it's a plus that Herbie Farnworth is out if you want to play Jermaine Azarko. He's likely to score a try or two out there on that edge. And kick plenty of goals if the Finns are attacking. It just, we just have to wait and see how big of a loss Herbie really is alongside the hammer. But I think Trey Fuller will do a decent job there at fullback anyway.
Yeah, all right. That's a really good segue. Let's jump into fullbacks and talk through one of the biggest plays, I think, of the weekend is Trey Fuller. He finally gets a chance to showcase his skills at fullback. We haven't really seen that very often because Hammer's been pretty dominant there. Is Trey Fuller just straight into your side this week? Despite having, as you can see on screen, the 7 average GDS points this season so far.
Yeah, I think that might turn a few coaches off that see his name on the screen with a pretty poor average there and go, what are these blokes talking about? Why are they playing Trey Fuller? Look, he's a different beast. He plays fullback when the hammer's not there. He played 4 games at fullback last season. Don't even bother looking at this season's scores so far. But last season, 4 matches at fullback, 2 tries in those 4 games, scores of 66, 44, 77, and 64. That tells you all you need to know about a bloke that can just step into the shoes of one of the fastest men in the league. 257 run meters, averaging in one match, averaged 210. So constantly above 200 run meters. He was breaking 6.5 tackles per game. Just loves a tough carry and can duck under a big defender as well. Not only that, he was creating plenty of attacking chances with 4 try assists in 4 games, 1.5 line break assists per game as well. So yeah, plenty to like there about Trey Fuller. And it's almost like you're getting pretty much a hammer, just maybe without the speed, but someone who can still rack up fantasy points just as quickly.
And I guess for me, on face value, looking at the stats, the Raiders have been pretty good, restricting fullbacks to 45 this season, which sort of is middle of the road in terms of the whole competition. But with this shortened round and a lot of the Raiders players out and as sort of a different looking side, I think you put a line through that, and we're not quite sure how they're going to defend. But I think Fuller, for that reason, is still going to be a really strong play, knowing that there's plenty of opportunity for him, especially if he can connect down that right side. It should be unreal. A player that I really like this week is Tane Tuapiki, and not just because he's from the Warriors, but he's got that really good matchup that we've targeted the last few weeks up against the Dragons. They're still allowing 60 GDS points to fullbacks this season. Tuapiki as well, he got the goal-kicking duties when Tanner Boyd went down. He kicked 5 goals last week. Question marks, though, for whatever reason, and we had a conversation about it today, we're not quite sure, but CHT, Chanel Hash-Tavita, did take over the kicking duties and kicked 2 goals. He had 1 penalty goal there across those 2 at the back end of the game. So I'm not quite sure why the case was for CHT to get the kicking tee, but I might keep a close eye on that warm-up because, yeah, look, if Tuapiki's kicking goals, it's just an absolute cherry on top of an already strong matchup that he has. Plenty of points in this game, as we've already touched on. It should be a cracker game, and it's just one of those games where I think the Warriors are going to have an absolute field day against the Dragons that are just really struggling to defend at the moment. They're struggling to do a lot of things on the footy field at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, he's in a lot of my sides as well, given likely to kick goals, and wouldn't we be dirty if it's a Jamal Fogarty experience again, where the Wires score early on and you go, here we go, plenty of points for Tuapiki, and then Tamari Martin kicks goals. But no, look, he's looking more and more confident at fullback. Even if he doesn't kick goals, still probably going to score well there against the Dragons. With the matchup, a good play, great one if he's kicking conversions.
Yeah, definitely. And Scott Drinkwater, he hasn't been super electric in the last few weeks. We've had some glimpses of brilliance. They've got a pretty easy or an easier matchup with a few bunnies out and Latrell, Cam Murray. Is that just an easy play because he's one of those elite options, I guess, that we've relied on in the past? When we have a look at some of the other names that are available to us, Drinkwater sort of stands out as one of the better averaging fullbacks at the moment.
Yeah, particularly through this period when defenses are a little bit weaker. He is a bit of a flat track bully when the opposition is pretty tough and full strength. He can go missing. He's had some pretty poor scores, some really low 30s. He started off with that 20 against the Knights, but amongst that, some big 60s as well against some pretty poor sides, in the Dragons, the Titans, the Doggies when they were pretty vulnerable as well. So he can beat up on the easy beats. He does enjoy a game up there at home in North Queensland. The Bunnies are depleted, so it's not an amazing play. It's not a must play for me. He'll probably get the job done. He'll probably be on 56 points at halftime, and you'll be going new beauty, and he'll get you a 64 or something, and it'll be fairly underwhelming. But no, I don't mind it. He'll roam both sides of the field, and the Cows should score plenty of points.
Yeah. And then for me, I guess the big point of difference there is Kerry Weeks up against the Dolphins. They're allowing 47 on average this season, but it's been an absolute roller coaster for the Dolphins against fullbacks. They've allowed restricted a low score of only 4 GDS points from Connor Tracy this year, but they've also had highs of 73, 76, and 86 from Farlongo, Tuapiki, and Walsh, respectively. And Weeks himself has put up some pretty decent scores against some defensively stronger sides. A 53 against the Panthers in round 10. Go all the way back to about round 2, I think it was, and he put up a 70 against the Dogs at the start of the season where they were quite good defensively. They've obviously dropped off recently, but he was able to put a good score up against them. So I feel like there's potential for Weeks to have a big game against the Dolphins, irrespective of some of those players that we mentioned that were out and probably the disconnect that maybe the Raiders might have. Kerry Weeks is one of those players that he's an excitement machine, and if anything's going to happen and the Raiders are going to play well, I think it's going to come off the back of him. And you just had to go and watch all of that footage from last year that KO was showing around Magic Round, where he had that awesome try against the Storm in the wet. So you know that he's got it. It's just whether he can pull it out against the Dolphins in this reduced round. I think he's going to be a really nice pod for some players as well.
Yeah, let's hope, and a definite play for the Stats Lab primetime comp on Friday.
Definitely. And just quickly, Sif Kanga has got Fuller, Drinkwater, and Kinney in there. We haven't talked about Kinney. He is a point of difference. Is that someone you're looking at as a pod, or potentially even I might be leaning towards a fade purely just based on that tough matchup with the Sea Eagles?
Yeah, it's the matchup that's pretty tough. But look, where's the round 6 performance against the Eels? 90 GDS points without a try, 3 try assists, 4 line breaks, 2 line break assists, 6 tackle breaks, 4 offloads, 265 run meters. That's the type of counter Kinney we were seeing fairly often before that neck injury. It came out of the absolute blue there against the Eels, and then a couple of down games before, a game where no one played him against the defensively sound Roosters, where he scored a try and 68 GDS points with another 250 run meters and 7 tackle breaks. He can get it done. It doesn't matter who the opposition is. We just haven't seen it enough. So, yeah, look, if the matchup was a little bit nicer on paper, I'd definitely be able to get there. But his floor is just too low. And when the Titans aren't going well, he's just not getting any good footy and not doing enough with it.
Yeah. Alrighty, let's jump into our Stats Lab consensus team here, the Stats Lab primetime competition. You can see we do have the 3 games, the Thursday and the Friday night games. So we've got Leo Thompson paired with Uday Kamano up the front, Joseph Tarpany locking the scrum there, JMK is hooker, and then our edges are Fini Fuiaki and Zach Hosking. Then our halves, Katoa, we've spoken about at length. We've also spoken about Jerome Hughes at length. Our backs, looking at our centres, we've got Nick Meaney and Matt Timoko. We've also got Jermaine Asako paired with Bostock in the wing position, and then Trey Fuller, who we've spoken about at length as well at fullback. Consensus Stat Lab primetime competition. Just a massive shout out to the Stats Lab team. They continue to support the Fantasy Bros. Make sure you head over to the statslab.app. Check out all the awesome tools that they have available. We've been using all of them for all of our stats and our player comparisons. There's plenty of analysis tools for you to jump into to help dominate GameDay Squad. So make sure you check out the statslab.app and give them a bit of support as well. And then let's jump across to our full round consensus side. This is our starting 13, and I love that we've got Oliver Pascoe Diamond there because we don't have any other card of him at the moment, so we can only roll out his Diamond. Oliver Pascoe in the hooker position. We've got Toby Couchman paired with Jackson Ford, Aaron Clark locking the scrum with Lasardi and Fini Fuiaki on the edges. Our halves, Jamal Fogarty and Jerome Hughes. Our backs there, the centres is Garrick and Purdue, just ahead of Chester, but very close. And then our wingers are Farlongo and Isako, with Tane to a Peaky in the fullback role. It's great to see a whole lot of Warriors there. It only takes till half the squad is out before we can get them into our consensus side. Obviously, that doesn't include the bench, and feel free to play around with some of the options that we gave you in the pod positions, etc., for the bench. Alrighty, everyone's favourite time of the show is the BroDown Showdown, and you can see once again I took over the Harry Grant over Reece Robson. Herbie Farmworth obviously got one up over Tolakula, but then Jenkins stormed home against Sua Farlongo and did the job for me. So that means we spun the wheel off screen, and if you voted for Dyl, it was in fact Michael Cozzy who won. So congratulations to Michael Cozzy. We are going to open a rare pack for you, and as always, if you want to hit us up on Discord after the rare pack has been opened, to collect all of the cards. You can have all 9 cards here. So Stu, just check, can you see that on screen?
Not yet. Yes, I can. A rare pack on screen. Let's go.
Alrighty. Good luck, Cozzy's posse. Here we go. Let's get some good cards here. Hopefully we get some that can be used this weekend. Alrighty, kicking us off, we have Jordan Ricky Gold, Tuivasa, Edwards, Murray Gold, Nick Meaney Gold, if you want to get him as a pod into your side, Blake Moser, Billy Walters, Cole, and Simpkins there. So if you want any of those, Michael Cozzy, make sure you hit me up on Discord. I'd say the Nick Meaney, Cam Murray, definitely going to be a couple of cards that you want in your side moving forward. Alrighty, into this week's BroDown Showdown. I am currently leading 7-5. It was back to Stu's serve. So I still have one up on the break. Remember, if you want to get involved and you want to win just like Michael Cozzy, really simple. You just need to comment who you think is going to win. With Stu, he's gone Damien Cook, Tom Chester, and Jerome Hughes up against me with Oliver Pascoe, Garrick, and Fogarty. Remember, it is position versus position, so it's not a full combined score, rather Cook versus Pascoe, Chester versus Garrick, and Hughes versus Fogarty. So make sure you get your comments in. Comment Stu if you think he's going to get one back, or comment Dyl if you think I'm going to move ahead and go 8-5. Make sure you get your comments in before the first game or the only game on Sunday. That is when comments are closed. Alrighty, that is it for our show. Another absolute cracker. Who would have thought? We've got half the competition out and we still go slightly over time, but it just shows we've got plenty of players that we can still choose from, and hopefully we've given you some really good options. Look, our next show, next Wednesday, May 27th, it's going to be slightly different. If you haven't joined the Fantasy Bros before, it is going to be a State of Origin preview, because GameDay Squad do have the Queensland versus New South Wales competition. So we're going to go through all the best plays for Wednesday night. Then we'll also put up some posts about the rest of the week in terms of round 13 as well. So it is going to be a slightly different one, but we would love for you to join us. We might even try and get a couple of special guests on. We'll see how we go over the week and see if we can get a few guys on that we usually get on. Alrighty. Thank you very much, Stu. Thank you very much to everyone joining us. Hopefully we gave you a few good ones. Good luck for this reduced round. Stu, any final words?
Good luck, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you soon.